Everybody ready? Good evening and welcome to the March 13th regular meeting of the Newtown Township Board of Supervisors. St. Patrick's Day is almost here. Spring is almost here. And just a lot of good things to look forward to. I know all of our recreation programs in the summertime will be great. So, as I call us to order, it's customary that we have a moment of silence. So, if you would please join the board in a moment of silence this evening. Thank you. And now please join us for reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Manager, are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
No special actions. Brings us to our first round of public comment. Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment our first round? Seeing none. No minor approvals this evening. No reports of committees. I would just, as my chairman's report, I would have two items. One is that I attended the jointure meeting it was 2 Thursdays ago. And from that meeting, we looked over what ordinances, the status of several ordinances. We should have coming to this board the jointure agreement for approval. I guess that's after a public hearing. And expansion of non-conforming structures. Those two should be coming to us for our final approval. And then after that, we should have the billboard use for comments and the comprehensive plan for final comments. Other than that, I visited with Chief Hearn for a discussion about some of the findings of the NAACP Bucks County Police Study. And we had a discussion, and that's what I had. Ms. Snyder, do you have anything this evening?
The one thing I want to say is that we're getting ready for our plastics ordinance. I went to the EAC meeting Monday night, and we're checking all businesses had to put a sign that's visible to customers in their window by March 10th or at their cash registers. We're going around checking to make sure everybody has done that for the rollout of the plastics ordinance, which will be April 9th. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mack, do you have anything?
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Davis, while we're on this side.
Nothing to report, thanks.
Mr. Calabro. All right, 3 strikes. Okay. Brings us to, I believe, no public hearings tonight, no land development. We have reports of officials, and we have one item for the engineer's report. So, Mr. Kandari.
That's right. Yep, thank you. Our only item is the financial security release for the Pickering Manor. We've reviewed the request by the developer seeking a release of the financial security for the completion of the required site improvements. And based on our inspection of the work completed, RVE recommends that the township release the amount of $62,937.66 to the developer from the financial security held for the completion of the required site improvements at the development. And I'll just note that after this release, there are no funds remaining in the financial security.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second? And this is the final.
That's correct.
Any discussion from the board? It seems pretty routine. Any from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of paying the financial security release number 2, final, to Pickering Manor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Any,
Mr. Chairman?
yes, and I had a question as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
So, there's been a bunch of emails flying around about Newtown Walk and Silo Drive, for that matter, the RFBs, that project. And reading them, I just want to clarify that I've got it right. That right now the ball's kind of in PennDOT's court to approve the design or give us some guidance on how to get whatever reservations they have about our design.
That's correct, yeah. There's been a couple round of comments from them, and most recently it is back in their court to respond to some of our questions.
Okay. And I noticed the residents have contacted Senator Santicero and Representative Warren, and I've done that myself, so just to offer any little push that I can offer. But thank you. Now, Mr. Mack?
Thank you. Mr. Kandari, thanks for answering some of my questions, specifically about the railing on the Lower Darlington Trail. As maybe a lot of people know, there's some damage to that railing. And I know you've been trying to get the company, what's it called, Associated Paving.
That's right.
To come in to make repairs, and also something about relocating a portion. Can you explain that, the relocation?
Yeah, when they initially installed the railing, there was a conflict with the gas utility in that area, and they installed it into the trail, which is it's abutting into the 8-foot wide trail that we required. So we had directed them to move it back towards the road, and it's just been a negotiation since to get them to go out there and relocate it.
And you're also currently negotiating for them to come back and fix the railing that has somehow got a little smashed. I'm not quite sure what happened there. Do you know what might have happened to that?
We were made aware that the spacer blocks were all damaged. I'm not sure what happened there. It's kind of a mystery to us, but we let them know, and we directed them to go out and take a look and remedy the situation, and we are waiting to schedule that with them.
And you've been trying to get them to do this for quite a while. I guess the company's name is Associated Paving, is that correct?
That's right.
What I was thinking, someday, and that day may never come, we may be looking for a paving company to do more trails. I know that we might have to accept a low bid, but is there circumstances in which we do not have to accept a low bid, say of a company that repeatedly ignores our requests for fixes to the work they've done?
That would probably have to be something I would consult with the solicitors and the township staff on, what circumstances we could disqualify the low bidder. But, it's certainly something we could take into consideration.
I don't know. I would certainly disqualify Associated Paving. So I'd like to know how we could disqualify low bidders. Mr. Sander, do you have any?
Well, it's very fact sensitive, and you've got to take each contractor separately and apart. It has to do with evidence of past performance. You better have documented evidence of problems with a contractor that are substantial enough to warrant disqualifying a low bidder. And depending on the contractor, chances are you may be getting into some litigation at that point.
be interesting for us to take somebody else to court instead of vice versa.
Mr. Solicitor,
Sir?
it's my understanding that it's our fiduciary responsibility to go with the low bidder, provided the low bidder has fit all the specs of what is to be done. And like you said, if they're not a nefarious company, then we are supposed to, as a body, go with the low bidder, because that is, again, our fiduciary duty to the township. So to disqualify a low bidder and go with another bidder, to me, could be a perception of bid rigging. In other words, us going with a favor of who we see we would like to have it done, just because we didn't like the lowest bidder.
Yeah, it's a touchy area. The law says you have to award the bid to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder. So that's a two-part test. Have they responded appropriately to the bid specs and submitted a complete bid that contains everything it needs to contain? And also, are they responsible, and can they actually do the job? So it's something, again, that we have to look at on a case-by-case basis depending on the bidder. And that's something that RV goes over carefully and then brings us in if there are any questions.
I have a question. If they're not responsible, as it seems they're not, is that a reason for disqualification?
Yes, it can be, yeah. Again, you need substantial
Proof.
evidence of non-responsibility on their part.
Has the township done this in the past with some other bids? I've only been here for 6 years, so I really don't know. Maybe
I don't recall it.
You don't recall?
Phil or anybody else does.
I don't recall.
Okay. Like I said, the day may never come.
All right. Thank you. Good discussion. Anything else for our engineer?
I'll also just note that tomorrow is our bid opening for the 2024 road program. So we will be opening those bids, reviewing them, and then we will offer our suggestion to authorize the award.
And that day may come for considering a low bidder. Who knows? Okay. We have no solicitor's report, right? Am I correct, Mr. Sander? Do you have anything to report?
I have nothing to report.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fund balance as of this evening is $5,428,672. Plan expirations before the board with no action required. And this evening we have Chief Hearn to give his monthly Chief's report. Evening, Chief.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, board members. February 2024 police report. We documented 2,591 calls for service, logged just under 22,000 miles on our patrol fleet. For the month of February, we had 21 arrests, including a simple assault, domestic related, terroristic threats involving a handgun, 4 thefts, 3 of which were retail, 5 narcotics possessions, 5 forgeries, 4 involved a home cleaner, 1 false reports to law enforcement, and 4 DUIs. There were 15 new cases referred to detectives for investigation, with 4 crime scenes processed, some of which include the fatal fire on Mahogany Walk, a residential burglary on Crittenden Street, 2 child abuse, 1 sexual assault, 2 frauds, 6 thefts, and a death investigation. There were 53 traffic crashes, 15 reportable, 29 reportable. There were 212 traffic citations issued and 326 warnings issued. Our Truck Enforcement Task Force operated for 2 details this past month, citing 18 inspections, 8 citations, 8 warnings, and 2 vehicles were placed out of service. Notable or significant jobs, on February 16th, Detective Corporal Joseph Camp successfully graduated from a 10-week program by Northwestern University School of Police Staff and Command, which prepares future leaders of our police department. Also on 2/16, Newtown Township Police Department assisted Lower Make on an unfortunate homicide which occurred in their jurisdiction. On 2/26, despite the best efforts by police on the scene, within 2 minutes, on Mahogany Walk, we unfortunately lost the life of one of our residents. It was ruled by the fire marshal as an accidental. On February 29th, Police Officer Renee Hurst, our long-term SRO, retired after serving 34 years in Newtown Township. For our public service announcements, we have a few. Seasonal part-time employment opportunity for school crossing guards. Submit your application. The police department is also hiring. Seek out our applications on Police app, download the application, and sign up for our consortium, which is being held in April. St. Patty's Day weekend, make sure you're using Uber or Lyft this next weekend. Do not drive intoxicated. Lock your vehicles when not in use and do not leave valuables inside. And finally, on March 28th from 10 to 1 p.m. at Veterans Park, we will have our Touch a Truck event. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'd just like to emphasize that Touch a Truck is a great event. Kids love it.
Sure.
And that's on March 28th from 10 to 1.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
I did notice on this February report, there was an item called Safe to Say. Can you tell us what that means? Because I don't think I've seen that before.
It's numerous, we've been handling numerous Safe to Say calls. Basically, it's a private number, anonymous number where you report so issues with children in our district, and our investigators follow up to make sure that kids are safe and there's no problems. It's usually coordinated with our school district, our school resource officer, for the most part.
Thank you. I didn't notice any items. There weren't any items under that category this time. No. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any others?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Lewis, you're back on.
Mr. Chairman, I have a few more items under our report for the board's consideration, first of which is the purchase of police vehicles. We had allocated $255,000 under the capital plan for the purchase of the vehicles. The total cost is $250,784. The appropriate motion would be authorization to purchase police vehicles and outfitting in the amount of $250,783.69 through CoStars from the capital fund.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second before I could get my microphone on. Any discussion from the board? These were budgeted for like $5,000, $4,000 more than
That's correct.
they're costing us, so that's great. Any other comments or questions from the board, from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor of purchasing the police cars, police vehicles from CoStars in the amount specified, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Next item under our report, Mr. Chairman, is the board's consideration to authorize the purchase of a license plate reader system. These are fixed units on traffic signals throughout the township and one's up in Wrightstown. This is being fully funded and reimbursed through a grant that the police department received. So the appropriate motion would be authorization to purchase license plate reader equipment in the amount of $151,000 through CoStars from the capital fund.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? I'll second that. So a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board?
I have a few things, if you don't mind. Thank you, Chief. I know it says that this system would be able to locate cars coming through these intersections that may have warrants associated with them, stolen vehicles, that sort of thing, correct?
That's correct, sir.
And that this data is shared with other police departments.
Law enforcement only, that's correct.
But the system records every single license plate going through these intersections, is that correct?
That's correct.
And it's stored in a database.
Yes, sir.
My question is, because I've been reading, I have some privacy concerns, and I've been reading some things from the ACLU, which suggests a few, that the law enforcement agencies should have some policies, specifically regarding my license plate, for example. If I were to go to the police department and say, do you have any data on my license plate? Can I see that data? Do you have a policy for that?
Yes, you're not entitled to it, sir.
You're not entitled to
No,
that?
sir.
There are some,
We do have policies in place for data, for entry, for request for information, and it's determined by our right to know laws.
so it doesn't sound like it's very easy for me to find out if my license plate is in there, if my wife could use it, for example, to prove I wasn't where I was or something like that.
No, sir.
I'm a little bit concerned, for example, if somebody, a woman from like Alabama who's trying to go to a different state to get an abortion, you know, you share data, you might find her license plate coming through Newtown, and then that data is shared with Alabama. I'm not sure, but maybe Alabama has a law against going to another state. I guess that person would be violating the law and being in the database if they come through our town.
That's a misunderstanding of how the system works, sir. We basically look for NCIC entries for wanted subjects, missing persons, stolen license tags, missing Megan's Law violations, terrorist watch list. That's what the database searches out for. When that data is tagged, when we have an alert for that particular vehicle, we stop that vehicle with due process and due cause after verifying.
So the very specific reasons for tagging.
That's correct. That's correct, sir.
The other thing was, again, I'm a law-abiding citizen and my data is in the system. Are these, where there's no warrants or anything for these license plates, do you keep that data in the system forever, or is it eventually removed? I noticed the ACLU has said that there are some municipalities that remove such data after 3 months, 1 year, whatever. Do you have any policies regarding that?
My policy is very specific. It's retained for 30 days. If it doesn't hit, it disappears in 30 days.
Is that correct?
That's correct. If I get a hit on your license plate for unregistered, it'll stay in the system for 60 days.
Okay.
That's it. If there's a criminal investigation regarding your license plate, we're going to keep it indefinitely until that investigation is closed.
Good, okay. The other question I had is, I was looking at Middletown, and they recently enacted or voted to install such a system or expand it. And they said they were paying the same company that gave you the quote, they were paying $15,000 a year. Why are they paying $15,000 a year? They didn't get as much money as we got, I guess, from this grant?
Our grant was more significant, and we are installing more cameras than they're installing. We're covering 4 critical intersections within our jurisdiction. In the past, the Southeastern Regional Task Force money exempted Newtown from getting any of these cameras. They went to every other jurisdiction. That's why we submitted the grant under the technology opportunity to make Newtown safer. And we were awarded the grant.
And is there a annual fee? I know you have to maintain the database, there's communications with other databases. Is that something that there's a fee involved with?
The $151K that's in the budget for the grant proposal covers all expenses for the next 5 years. The only thing it doesn't cover is our connection, our Verizon connection that we use on our computer car MBTs, which is minimum in cost. And I think the maintenance fee, which is $150 a year for years 2 through 5.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Anything else, sir?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
None? Okay. Thank you. Mr. Manager, that's right, we have a motion and a second. Just wondered if you were finished, but you are, because we've been talking about it. Any further questions from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of authorizing the purchase of license plate reader equipment in the amount of $151,000 through co-stars from the capital fund, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one more item under my report for the board's consideration. As we do every year, our Public Works Director has gone out to the Bucks County Consortium and received bids for stone and miscellaneous road paving materials. There is a memorandum in the board's packet in support of this, so the appropriate motion would be approval to purchase road materials through Bucks County Consortium in accordance with the Public Works Director's memorandum.
Do we have a motion? A second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? We got lots of roads to repair, so let's get them out there. Any from the public? Any comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the purchase of road materials through the Bucks County Consortium, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all we have under our report.
Okay. Assistant Secretary, Assistant Treasurer has a minutes and bills list report.
The exciting part of the agenda. So first, concerning the minutes of the February 28th, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting, I make a motion to approve these minutes.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion from the board? None? Any from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the minutes of February 28th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, next is the bills list dated March 13th, 2024. I make a motion that we pay our bills totaling $405,249.17 according to this bills list.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Oh, okay, thank you, Mr. Davis. Any further discussion from the board? Any from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of paying our bills in the specified amount, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries 4-1.
Okay, finally, I make a motion that we approve the transfer of funds totaling $284,895.11 as per the March 13th, 2024 bills list.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Do we have any discussion from the board? Any from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of funding our interfund transfers of March 13th, say aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, that brings us to our second round of public comment. If anyone has comment to make, please come to the microphone, state your name and what community in Newtown you live.
Bradley Cooper, Newtown Grant resident since 1999, and I've been doing some research and reading up on the patch and different emails and articles that have been shared to people, maybe Facebook or anywhere else. And one of the things that could potentially be happening later this year or next year is potentially people coming up asking to have more living apartments built, kind of like the one that could be next to the Wawa. And I don't think that the residents of Newtown, borough or township, really want any of these big living places in there, because there's not enough room for them to be put in the traffic and the issues that they arise because they're there. And I think that if you guys are against that, we need to fix our zoning laws, which I brought up many times because they're so outdated that every time I go to a zoning hearing to listen to them talk about this or talk about that, the the plaintiff always goes up there with their expert and says, well, your laws are 20 years, 40 years out of date. They don't even comply to today's standards. So I know we have the comprehensive plan that you guys are looking at and possibly going to approve. A lot of us haven't read it and haven't seen what's inside of there, but I hope that in that comprehensive plan, you guys thought about updating zoning laws, so if you guys don't like something, it's easier to fight it than saying, oh, we're going to fight a 40, 50-year-old law that is, you know, easily de facto with someone's expert when they go in front of the zoning experts and the zoning committee. So I hope you guys take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments this evening? Seeing none, I'll go to old business. Do we have any old business this evening? Any new business? I just wanted to mention, real quickly, and I'm sure we'll get more information about this in terms of Act, Mr. Lewis, tell me if I got this wrong, Act 2209, and it's something I think that the Planning Commission would have to make a recommendation for us to be able to use some of the transportation service area funds for road repairs. You got that? Yeah. So I'd like that money's been in those two accounts for a long time, and it might help us pave a couple more miles of road or do whatever we need to. It's all related. So I'd like to talk about doing that. So didn't put it on the agenda tonight, but I wanted us to be able to introduce the idea and go from there. And so maybe next meeting under new or old business, we can direct the Planning Commission to do something.
What was this, Act 209?
Act 209.
Traffic impact fees.
What's that called?
Traffic impact fees.
Traffic impact fees. All right. Any other old or new business? We did not need to have an executive session this evening. So without objection, I will adjourn our meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.
Holy.